Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend and you're all set to watch the eclipse this afternoon. So some stuff I want to cover today that I think can help your business if you utilize it. So the first thing is, guys, how many of you have noticed that your home insurance rates have jumped a lot the last couple of years? Anybody? Because mine have jumped over 40%, and I have my guy shop it. So I talk to my guy twice a year, and he's shopping it continually. So is that going to get better, do you think, going forward? No, I don't think it's going to get better either. I think it's going to only get worse. In fact, some states, even a lot of the insurers are exiting the arena. So do we get paid, most of us, there's a few property casualty agents on the system, but do 98% of us get paid for helping our clients with talk about their home insurance? No. So it's a way for us to add value. Now, I'm going to cover a couple of things, and a lot of it, I will guarantee you, many of you don't even know this, and I guarantee you that your clients don't know these things. So home insurance costs have soared recently. Policy renewal rate shows that premiums have been increasing by more than 20% year over year, according to separate accounts and insurance firm Matic, blah, 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 blah. According to Matic, the national average cost of home insurance climbed to about $1,700 in 2023 from $1,175 in 2019. Guys, is that a big or a small difference? From $1,175 to $1,700. And again, this is average. Many of our clients, do they have average homes or do they have above average cost homes? They have above average costs. Because I wish my insurance was only this. My insurance is a hell of a lot more than that. So why is the home insurance so expensive? The high number of claims in the last few years far exceeded the actuaries predicted. And guys, are the claims going to go up or down with what's happening with climate change? I mean, are we having more storms or less storms? Are the storms more aggressive or less aggressive than they used to be? So Matt Simon, president of CoverLink Insurance, an agent, they predicted the primary reason why home insurance is so high is the number of claims. Last year, 28 individual weather and climate events resulted in at least $1 billion of damage, up from the previous high of 22. From 22 to 28, big jump or little jump? And again, is this going to get better or worse? So home insurance availability is even more limited. Not only are home insurance policies going up and becoming more expensive than they were a few years ago, they're also getting harder for customers to find. There's a very large portion of insurers in the market that are not writing new business. Experts recommend getting at least 3 price quotes when you shop for home insurance. It's smart to compare options on an annual basis. Guys, if your clients are not using an independent agent, I mean, what happens? What do we find out that happens to our clients when they don't use independent financial advisors? Do they pay more or less? It's the same thing with insurance agents. They're going to pay more or less with a guy who only sells farmers or only sells Allstate or only sells whatever. They're going to pay more than if they shop around. I saved $2,000 a year by going to an independent. I think I told you guys that a couple years ago. Hardening your home is a better way to withstand extreme weather events and can result in savings, especially in disaster-prone areas. There's sometimes discounts for installing storm-protected windows, better roofs, et cetera, et cetera. Other ways to save on home insurance include opting for higher deductible, bundling your policy with auto insurance, improving your credit score. So these are all things you can recommend. But here's the things that I think you can provide great value to your clients with. Because the insurers, who's heard of, or what's happening to the grocery stores for inflation? What's happening at grocery stores for inflation, especially with product sizes? What are they doing to the product size? Have any of you noticed it? Yeah, shrinkflation, right, Mark? Shrinkflation. So cereal boxes have gotten smaller, rice packages have gotten smaller, everything's gotten smaller so that it looks like you're not paying more, but you are, because they're just hiding that in the shrinkage. You know, Ben says up to 25% smaller packages. Well, guess what? You know, and we've talked about this, and it's in our property casualty portion of the script, but it's gotten even worse. How are home insurance, property casualty insurers dealing with this higher cost of claims? How are they dealing with it? They're raising rates, but guess what else they're doing? They're raising rates, but guess what else they're doing? Yes, Tom, not covering. They're changing their coverage. And when do they tell you? If you don't meet with your insurance agent, how do they tell you if they've changed the rates? Or not rates. You see that they changed the rates. How do they tell you they've changed the coverage? How do they tell you they've changed in the small print? Where's the small print? In your annual what? Renewal. How many of you, I don't read the small print. I know the questions to ask my property casualty agent. That's why I talk to them twice a year. How many of your clients read the small print? None. Yeah, I would say none. So here's some things here's a major thing that I called my provider about, my agent about, and he was blown away that I asked him this, which is, are you aware that many of these insurance companies have now changed people's without them having to sign off? They just changed it in the annual policy to a one covered cause. So like let's say a storm, a hail damage on the roof. But if they also show that it was an uncovered cause for roof damage, like squirrels or something like that, guess what they're going to do? A covered cause, if you have one covered cause and one uncovered cause, guess what they do? Zero coverage. They don't say, oh, I'm not going to cover the squirrel damage, but we'll cover the hail damage. Guess what they do? They say, oh, yeah, no, we're not going to cover any of this. So my insurance agent was blown away that I even knew about this, and I do have a premium coverage, and I pay for that because I don't, I'm willing to pay for it and able to pay for it. But most of your clients, what do they want? What do they opt for when it comes to their property casualty insurance? The best insurance or the cheapest insurance? Do they want the best insurance or do they go with the lowest price insurance? They want the cheap insurance. So do they investigate what cheap means to them when it comes to coverage? They think what? Well, no, cheap is good because, they're always going to cover my roof. They're always going to cover my siding. They're always going to cover my basement. No. Do your clients know this? So this is something that we should add. This is something we should add to our property casualty portion of our conversation at 20-point checklist. It's called anti-concurrent causation clause. How many of you knew about the anti-concurrent causation clause? I didn't until last week. Yeah, Mark did, and Mark, you're more up to speed than the average guy. So how many of your clients would realize that this is the case? One covered cause, one uncovered is zero coverage. How many of you, anti-concurrent causation clause. Yeah, if you saw that in the small print, what would you think? What the heck is that? So in years past, the repair would be covered. They used to cover it. They used to, if there was a covered cause, they'd say, okay, there's two reasons for this thing happening, but since you do have the coverage, we're going to cover it. But now they have this anti-concurrent causation clause where they will not cover it. Now, many companies operate with that the damage is indivisible. You can't separate the two damages. So what they should do, what you need to do is look for the anti-concurrent causation clause in the policy. How many of your clients would know about this? Are you adding value in a way that could save them thousands and thousands of dollars and you don't get paid for it? That's another way for you to have them realize that you are there for them. You do things that you do not get paid for. You are helping them avoid risks they did not know they had. And this is a risk for everybody. If you had this clause in your insurance, is that a risk to you? Is that a risk that could cost you thousands of dollars? Yes. Now, and the other thing is flooding is now almost always excluded from people's policies. And I've talked about this before. 25% of natural flooding. So 25% of natural flooding occurs out of flood zones. So if you think that you are not going to have flooding because you're outside a flood zone, 25% of the time, that's where the flooding is occurring. And flooding is excluded even in non-natural flooding. Now these policies are excluding flooding even in non-natural flooding, like broken sewer lines, not covered. Malfunctioning sump pumps, not covered. Leaks that have been occurring, and we've talked about this as part of your script, right? Leaks that have been occurring for 3 months, even if they're hidden behind walls, they will not cover it. I've talked about my experience when in my lake home in Lake Michigan, where water tables moved up. So the water tables moved up. We were high. We're about a quarter mile from Lake Michigan, but the water tables went up, and they'd never done this before. So not only did my house have $40,000 worth of damage because the water came up through the basement, pushed the concrete up from the bottom up, cracked it, and flooded into my basement, ruined everything. Thousands of houses in the same area, same thing happened. And some of these people had family cottages there for over 100 years, never happened before. Again, so these are things that are happening all the time, and it was not covered. It was out of pocket. So people are not, what? Guess how angry, first of all, I'm not an idiot, but did I think that was going to be covered when I had all that water coming up through the basement? Did I think that was going to be covered? Maybe I'm an idiot, but guess what I thought? I thought that was going to be covered. So I become an expert on what kind of water damage is covered and what isn't covered because of that. When I bought another home on another Lake Superior, guess what the first thing that I did? I bought one of these, which detects moisture in the wherever you put the monitors. The other thing it does is this, because first of all, if a leak is occurring behind a wall, how many months could it be before you would see that? If it's behind the wall, it could be how long before you'd see that? Could be months, right? Could be months and months. And how much damage could occur? Well, anybody know this? How do you see a leak if it's behind the wall? There's a good question for you. How do you see a leak that's behind the wall? Does anybody know how you see it? Well, yes, Andre, a sensor. And here's the sensor. It attaches to your water line. I actually had this go off, and you get an app on your phone. On my lake home, this actually went off. And the reason it went off is because I don't turn on the faucet, but I drip the faucet because it gets so doggone cold up where the home is. I drip it just to make it so the lines do not freeze. But even the tiny little drip, which is all you want, you don't want to waste water, so it's drip, drip, drip. That's all you want, and that's all you need. But even that set off the detector. So would this be, especially if somebody has lake homes, would this be something worthwhile? I mean, I think it ended up costing us like $300. Is that a good investment for a lake home? Even with their own home, if it's an older home and these leaks are occurring behind the walls, would it be nice to know that because it monitors if there is water being let out of the system, even on a drip, drip, drip basis. Is this something clients should know about? They don't need to really do it, but the fact that you would bring this up shows that you're what? The fact that you would bring this up shows what? You're on their side. That's right, Mark. You're on their side. Holy Roof Company, we've talked about this, the difference between actual cash value and replacement value. How many insurance companies are going to this? I mean, guys, do you in your neighborhood, we get this every frigging summer. Last year we had basically no rain, no storms whatsoever. It was extremely dry. All of Minnesota was in drought. But we had people pounding on our doors, skeevy roof people saying what? Hey, can we get on your roof and look for that the hail damage in your roof? It's like, dude, we haven't had a hailstorm in 2 years. But so because of that, though, there are people. We had a lot of people replacing their roofs. I don't know how they got it through their insurance, but they did. But because of that, instead of the insurance company saying, this is bullshit, this is not pardon my French, is not a real loss because of hail damage. Instead, what they're doing is instead of saying no to those people that are abusing the system, they'll instead put in the fine print. We're going from actual cash value to we're going from a replacement value to actual cash value. And again, what that we all know what that means, right? Actual cash value is what? After they depreciate your roof. So don't let the dog. The other thing is, don't let the dog bite you. What's the cost for dog bites? Insurers paid out $881 million in liability claims related to dog bites and other dog-related issues in 2021. The average cost for dog bite is $50,000. So if you have a dog would it be worthwhile them talking to the insurance agent about their dog bite coverage? Even if the dog is a nice dog, does it make sense to cover that? So how much does your insurance pay for a dog bite? So that makes sense. So guys, this is just another way for us to what? Show that we're different, show that we care. So the main topic today is we want to talk about customer relationships, because romance always comes from inefficiency. See, and I learned this the hard way. I had an automatic service send my wife flowers at her office when she was working every single month, top of the month. Every single month, top of the month. She was delighted the first time, but by the fourth time, guess what she thought? Was she impressed or not impressed? It was obvious that what? I had a service doing this on a regular basis. So was that inefficient? That was very inefficient or efficient for me to do that? Very efficient. Now, if instead I stop at the florist, pick up flowers, and hand deliver them, will that have an effect? Yes, it will. Because why? It was inefficient. It was not very efficient for me to take time out of my day, drive all the way across the town, go into a shop, find the flowers, drive all the way to her office. That's not efficient, but that's what people appreciate. Now, if we want to compete with the big guys, because you know what the big guys do? The big guys have efficiency. We need to be inefficient. See, if you want to compete with the Charles Schwabs, and this is not the other, the Charles Schwabs, the Fisher Investments, the Fidelity Investments, the Robo Advisors, the Vanguard. If we want to, the Ameriprise, if we want to compete with the big guys, we have to what? You have to be inefficient. You can't compete where you don't compare. Do we have the kind of money that these guys have to do the kind of things that they do? Do we have the systems, the software, the money? We don't have that. We're independents. So we have to do something outside of that. So be inefficient. What are ways you can be inefficient? Well, number one is you can call up your client. Call up your client and wish them a happy birthday. Heck, if you have a bad voice and they don't pick it up, because I couldn't do it if they were on the other side of the phone, but I could certainly leave a message where I sang them happy birthday. I wouldn't be quite as embarrassed. Sing them happy birthday. That's inefficient. Sending them, guys, what do you feel like when somebody sends you an email birthday greeting? You might be different than me, but when somebody sends you a happy birthday email greeting, how much do you appreciate that? Or do you just delete it? What do you think I do? If somebody sends me a birthday or LinkedIn, hey, happy birthday through LinkedIn, what do I think about that? I think, wow, boy, thanks for putting all that thought into it. So if they sent me a handwritten birthday card, what would I think? If they called up and wished me happy birthday, what would I think? That he cares. That's right. See, that's inefficient. I get it. It's inefficient. But it's a way for us to look different. It's a way for us. Heck, many of their kids don't even call up on and wish them a happy birthday or send them a handwritten birthday card. Many of their kids are sending this. How are you going to look if you call them up and wish them a happy birthday or send them a handwritten card to wish them a happy birthday as compared to doing this? Get to know them. Instead of saying, when you talk to them, instead of saying your kids, say your kids David, Monica, and your grandkids Jeremiah, Noah, and Dakota. Know them. Get personal. Know about their lives. Know about their children. Don't use your kids. Use what? Their names. Use their names. Get to know your clients and let them know that you know their clients. Let them know that you know that David is a doctor and Monica is actually a geography high school teacher. Let them remember that Jeremiah, Noah, and Dakota all play soccer. Remember that. When you talk like that, when you meet with them, that shows that you care. It's inefficient to know those things, but it shows you care. Know their hobbies and passions. Know what they're interested about. Know what their hobbies are. Know what their passions are. Because, guys, if you want to keep a client for long term, if you want referrals, you can't just know about the product and service. How much of this Venn diagram is about them personal, their persons? 3/4 of it. 3/4 about them, what interests them, what makes their life tick, what gets them up in the day, what makes them smile, what gets them excited, what they have passion about. This is where you're going to lock in those high value relationships that keep clients with you and will get you referrals. We have the WOW experience on our website. Low cost marketing. Then you hit WOW. You look at the manual. What do we talk about doing there? First of all, if you have an office space, when you drive into your office space, walk to the parking lot and pretend that you're a prospect. And we're going to get to you. If you don't have an office space, we're going to get to you in a second. If you don't have an office space, we're going to get to you in a second. But if you have an office space, walk around the parking lot and say, what do you see? Do you like it? Or how are the signage? Is it easy to find your office? Is it easy to find parking? Is there trash in the parking lot? Is there weeds all over the beds? What grade would you give your building? A, B, C, D, or fail? Guys, this has an effect when somebody's walking into your building. What about your reception area? Is your receptionist friendly? Do you have a sign that has their name on it, welcoming them to the office, the marquee sign? Is it a friendly place with pictures of happy clients? Remember, the only pictures you should have in your office are pictures, collages of all your happy clients at your events. Are there plants? Are the chairs comfortable? Is there enjoyable reading material like travel and gardening magazines? Do I do this, guys? I don't do this. So I don't know. We should not have that in our in our WOW experience. We should not have that. What I have, or what you should have now, or anybody have a guess? What should you have now on the table in front of them? Oh, somebody's asking, what kind of marquee sign do you have? Or do you? Basically, it's just something you can get at. You can get it online. You can get it at Walmart. You can get it at Sam's Club. You can get it at, I don't know if Costco has it, but any business store. You can either get the ones that have the letters in it, or you can get ones where you can slide in a printed name card too. There's all sorts, and we have those resources on our website too under resources. But there's all sorts of ways you do it. It was only like maybe what would I guess, 18 inches by 18 inches. And it was nailed right to the front of my door in the hallway, the business hallway. They went and when they opened the door, there's already a sign there before they open the door to my office that says, "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson," or "Welcome, Mary and Bob Johnson." So it's a very simple thing. You know, you're investing less than $25 to get that. What kind of an impact does it make when they see their name there? Do you think that guys, what are people's favorite words in the English language? What are people's favorite words in the Japanese language? What are people's favorite words in the Russian language? Their name, their name, their name. So having their name there is a huge thing. So thanks for asking that, Ben. Here's what we're talking about. Welcome, John. It can be something just this simple. You could just print this and then get it framed, and then you could just put a new sheet in there, John and Mary Smith, every single time. So some frame that would easily be taken on and off, and you just put printed. It could be that simple. That would cost you peanuts. Baking cookies, guys. Can you bake cookies in your office? Yeah. Do you have to whip them up in a bowl, or can you go to do the cookies smell any different? The ones that your mom used to make in the bowl versus the ones that when you go to the grocery store, slice up cookies and put them in the oven. They may taste different, but do they smell different when you walk in? They smell the same. So what is it? And what do you think guys? Anybody that does any that's interested in the human brain like I am will know this. What is the brain's most powerful sense? Is it sight? Is it hearing? Is it smell? Is it touch? What is the brain's most powerful sense? Smell. That's right, John. Smell is. Because it instantly triggers your brain to go back to memories. And what are your memories of when you think of when you smell cookies? Are they bad memories or are they good memories? Hot beverage system. Guys, you can get Keurig, Tassimo, Sensia. There's all sorts of these now where you can actually have a gazillion different flavors of coffee and tea and hot cocoa and make it for them. They're all at all sorts of different places in that. But here's the magic of it. Sure, they get a hot drink, but the magic of it is this. When they come in the first time, you have them fill out this menu. And we've got the PDF of this on the website. You have them fill out this menu. So the first time they're impressed, but it's the second time they're really impressed, because guess where this menu goes after they fill out this menu card? What does your assistant do with this card, or what do you do with this card? You put it in their file. Why do you put it in their file? Because the next time in, do you hand them a new menu, or do you say, oh, do you want the espresso again this time? Do you want that hot tea that you had, the jasmine tea you had last time? What does it say to them when you remember what they had to drink the last time? Have you ever been to a restaurant or a bar or any place where they remembered what you ordered last time? How does that make you feel? Now, whether this is logical or not, you know what? People don't buy for logical reasons, do they? They buy for emotional reasons. So when you remember what they drank last time, what does that say about you? That you care or don't care? That they are a human being that you value, or just another customer? Guys, this is not a little thing. This is not a little thing. When you remember what they drank last, holy cow. But again, some people say, but Mike, I don't have an office anymore. During COVID, I got rid of it. It's cheaper. It's easier. My clients don't mind. I don't have an office. Well, it's like anything. Are these great tools, guys? Is this impressive when they see their name? Is it put them in a whole different mindset when they have cookies? When you remember what they drank last? These are powerful, powerful tools. Well, if you don't have an office, guess what? You don't have an office. You can't use those powerful tools. But if you don't have those powerful tools, if I have an electric, I'm going ice fishing and there's 24 inches of ice and I have an electric auger, guess what? I can plow through that thing in about less than a minute. If I don't have an auger, a power auger, guess what I have to do? I have to work harder and do it by hand. It's going to take longer. It's going to be harder. I'm going to sweat more. My muscles are going to get a workout. So if you don't have an office, you can still do these things, but it means you're going to have to be clever. You're going to have to think clever. You're going to have to do clever. And you're going to have to work harder. That's a nice thing. How much work do these things really take? Putting their name in a marquee, popping some, 6 cookies into a little counter oven, and popping a pod into a coffee maker to make some coffee or tea or whatever it is, and remembering what that is. Is that a lot of work? No, it's not very much work at all. But if you don't have that, well, then guess what? You're just going to have to work harder. Here's another way to be inefficient. Guys, how many, when I was making $1 million a year, when I was making $667 a year, when I was making $357 a year, how many handwritten notes was I writing per year? I'm sorry, per month. How many? 200 a month. Guess how many I was writing when I was making $50,000 a year? 0. Was I busier when I was making $1 million a year than I was when I was making $50,000 a year? I was running 30 appointments a week when I was making $1 million a year. I was running maybe 4 appointments a week when I was making $50,000 a year. So I had way less time, but I still made time to write handwritten notes. Why? And I've told guys, here's the difference. Here's the difference. This is from Chewy, and it says, "Dear, Jim and Mary," and we actually got one of these cards. We're so overjoyed to have you as part of the Chewy.com family, delivering your pets food and goodies. As an honor, we hold dear to our hearts. We wish you happy holidays and amazing 2015. They remember the dog's name and the cat's name. Happiness, blah, blah, blah. How is that compared to this? And many of you have heard of what I did. I had my business bank sent me one of these Christmas cards. It did say "Dear Mike," but then it basically had "Dear Mike, Merry Christmas," blah, blah, blah. And then everybody there just signed the card. What did I do? And again, I'm not the typical person, but maybe I'll take action. But I think people still feel the way I do. They just may not take the same action that I do. When they sent me this card and all they did was had 15 different signatures on here without a single handwritten note, what did I do? And Missy can validate this. Guess how long that bank was my bank? I tossed the card and I tossed my relationship because other banks were hounding me for my business. So guess what I did? I said, if that's all you care about me, I'm moving my business. I got a lot of people who want my business and seem to care about it a hell of a lot more than you. So I moved my business to another bank. And you know what? That other bank was a great bank. They were dropping by little gifts, about every 3 or 4 months. They always wrote a handwritten note to me a couple times a year, Christmas and whatever. That's what I was looking for, and here's the funny thing. If that previous bank had not even sent this card, it would have been out of sight, out of mind. I wouldn't even have thought of it. But when I got this card, it was them validating in black and white there that they did or did not care about me. Do not ever, 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 ever send bulk cards out. Do not send bulk emails out. Not only is it not effective, not only is it ineffective, it's actually going to move you backwards. Why? Because it validates in the client's mind you don't give a crap about them. Yes. How efficient was it for Chewy to take everybody, their staff there to take time off to write handwritten notes to all their clients? That was not very efficient at all. Or was it? Because how many people remember this and are going to be more loyal to Chewy rather than Amazon.com or wherever when they're buying their pet stuff next time? Do you have voicemail? Is that how your clients, if you're not there, we can't be there all the time. We got stuff going on. Do you use voicemail? You had better not be using voicemail, guys. But I don't have an office. So, that's the only choice I got. Guys, do you have another choice? If you don't have an office, you don't have a real receptionist, do you have another choice for this? And I will tell you, yes, you do, because when you call 5Q, we do not have a receptionist, have not had a receptionist in 7 years. But when you call 5Q, do you get a real person? Yes, you do. You get a virtual receptionist. How many of your clients would know that you're using a virtual receptionist? And how much different is it when you get a human voice versus leaving a voicemail? Is that a big or a small difference? Voicemail versus a virtual receptionist? Big or small difference? Those of you that have had to leave voicemails versus talking to a real person, Missy, who do we use for that? Do you know?
It's called front office staff, and they have a couple of different locations, but we specifically used one out of Reno, but front office staff.
But there's lots of other choices out there too. But guys, even if you don't have an office, can you do this? And Missy, how expensive is it?
It's cheap, a couple $100 a month for a good volume of calls for sure. So. Yeah.
So guys, this is a way to do it when you don't have a staff. This you can do when you don't have a staff or an office. You can do this when you don't have staff or an office. You can write handwritten notes. These are all things you can do without an office. And guys, when we do the non-financial that we do not get paid for, are we not also doing the same thing and making sure they know that we care about them as human beings? At the 21 Life process, so every single annual review, what things do you do the 7 non-financial things at every annual review? Yes, you do. Why? Because it's a reminder of the things that you do that you don't get paid for. It's a reminder of the things that you do that none of the other advisors do. It's a reminder of the things that you do that you care about them and not just about their money. As I've said many times before, if you're out on a date with a girl and the only thing you talk about is sex, what does she know about you? The only thing you care about is sex. If the only thing you talk about is their investments, what do they know about you? The only thing you care about is what? Their investments. You have to be going over the 21 Light process, which is essentially the 7 non-financial things, every single year. That reminds them that you're more than just. And guys, when you do that and you have a down year, does it blunt the terrible conversation you have with them when you're constantly reminding them that, hey, I'm doing a lot more for you than just investments? Does it help with any fee problems if they know that you're doing a lot of things for them for the fee that they're paying? You have to do these things as well. Is it efficient? Well, no, it's a half an hour conversation you have to do every year. Not efficient. But we're not about efficiency. Are these things, we make them as efficient as possible, but how many of your competitors do what we do with these things? How many of your competitors are doing all the things that we do, helping them with making sure their power of attorney works with Social Security, making sure that they understand the importance of the electronically filing documents, having quality life. How many of your competitors do that? They don't do that. Why do your competitors not do these things? Because it's not efficient. They don't get paid for it. And in their minds, they're thinking, why would I ever do something I don't get paid for? That's not efficient. Guys, it's the inefficiency that locks people to you. Does that make sense? Romance always comes from inefficiency. With inefficiency comes referrals. Guys, it's these kind of things that get people thinking about you differently. Also, referrals come from doing the 21 Lite. Because remember, we have that referral script. We have the referral script that's connected right to the 21 Lite that gets them referring to you. Make sense? So, in this week's review of the 21-point checklist scripts, we're going to talk about the risk reward. And this is really this is putting the final nail in the coffin to the guy. So everything we've done up to this point has been to set up this conversation, because this conversation, there's no way around that their guy is screwing them with this conversation. So we do it the same way we always do. We first of all make sure they understand what risk reward means. So how does risk relate to return? Then we use a non-financially related story to get them to agree the concept. We use the apartment cable TV story. Then we review how the graph works when it comes to the Morningstar. We talk about the benchmark, why we use the benchmark of the S&P 500. We talk about the no-cost investment line, your investment analysis. Fees are good. See, look at how far down before we even get about their investments. Look at how far down we are before we even bring up their investments. Then we basically say, hey, fees are good. We're not saying fees are bad, because, if fees were bad and we're charging them, I guess we're bad too. So we get the agreement that fees are good. You just want to make sure when you pay fees, you get something for them. Then we basically, at the end, remember we have those 4 things. Do you want more risk for your more reward for your risk, or less reward for your risk? We want more reward for our risk. Do you want to pay more for that or less for that? We want to pay less for that. Oh, isn't that interesting? You're getting higher risk, less reward, but paying more for it. The opposite of what you want, which is what? I want to get more reward, less risk, and pay less for it. See that? So it's the same template that we use for every single other script. But all those other scripts got them to the point that when we do this gets people livid. So let's watch to see how we do that.
Okay, and then we'll be. You're still doing okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the next thing we want to talk about is risk versus reward, and what's the relationship of risk to reward? Take more risk, you expect more what?
More reward.
You take less risk, you expect what?
Less reward.
Only makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if I was in an apartment, let's say I moved into an apartment building, and they offered, as part of the amenities, they gave me 100 channels of cable TV at no charge. So I get how many channels?
100.
At what charge?
Nothing.
So now cable TV calls me up 2 weeks later and they say, hey, we've got a great deal for you. We're going to give you 50 channels for $40. What am I going to tell them?
I already get 100 for nothing.
And do I want to pay more for less?
No.
No, that'd be what?
That'd be silly.
That'd be silly, wouldn't it?
So guys, how many people are going to answer any differently than the way Jeff just answered there? I mean, are those questions that are beyond any illogical answer?
And I bring that up because we're going to go to Morningstar again, and we're going to look at risk reward. So this is a chart that shows the risk reward. And the way it works is this, what does it say down here?
So guys, look at how I do the chart here. We may know how to read this chart backwards and forwards. In our sleep, we could be 7 shades to the wind and still be able to read this chart. Do they know how it works? No. Would this be complicated to the average person that hasn't looked at a chart like this before? Yes. If you talk to any of your kids with ACT or SATs, one of the hardest parts of the test is reading schematics, graphs, etc. So watch how I have Jeff explain this chart to me. I'm not going to explain it to him. I'm going to make him explain it to me so there's no doubt on my mind he gets what's going on this chart.
Low risk, low reward.
And what does it say here?
High risk, high reward.
Okay. Oh, no, still says what?
High risk, low reward.
Yeah. So this is, okay. So this is talking about risk. So the more I go this direction, the more what I'm taking.
More risk.
Okay, now this one, when it talks about reward, says what? Low. And what does it say?
High.
So as I go this direction, I get higher and higher what?
Higher reward.
Which is their nice way of saying
return.
Return. And this is over a 3-year period. So we want, any year can be kind of one way or the other, but 3 years, does that seem like a reasonable amount to look at something?
Yep.
Okay. Do these look familiar to you?
Yep. Those
Okay,
are
cool.
our investments.
Okay. So this box here is the S&P 500. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what is the S&P 500?
It's like the 500 biggest companies, stocks in the United States.
Yeah. And could any person with a high school degree basically look at a whole long list of 10,000 stocks that are ranked by size and say, get down to the 500th one, draw a line there and say, okay, these are the 500 biggest stocks?
Yeah.
How hard is that?
That's easy.
It's easy. So guess what it costs you to be in the S&P 500?
Very little.
In fact, it costs you nothing. There's 4 different ways you can invest in the S&P 500, and it costs you, guess how much?
Zero.
Not little. Guess what?
Nothing.
Zero. And a CD at zero, no, how much do they bank charge you for a CD?
They don't charge anything.
No,
I don't.
zero.
Yeah.
So you got nothing. So if we draw this line as being the S&P 500, and it's saying that you'll take this much risk for this much what?
Return.
Okay. And then down here with a CD, you have how much risk?
CDs don't have any risk.
No risk. So, but they're also not paying what?
They're not paying much.
Yeah. So our bottom here is 5.2. Is any CD paying 5.2?
Yeah.
They're paying what?
One.
Yeah.
1.5.
So they're down here, right?
Right.
So we're drawing a line from here, because you take more risk, you get more what?
More return.
And then we get to here. Does that make sense why this line is diagonal like that?
Yep.
The CD is on the paper or way off the paper?
It's off the paper.
Yeah, but we draw a line to. Also, could you take more risk? These are the biggest 500 stocks. Are there smaller stocks than that?
Yeah.
And do they take more or less risk?
More.
More. So could you also buy maybe small stocks?
Yeah.
So this is called the benchmark. You ever heard of a benchmark?
Yeah.
And that's saying like blood pressure. 120/80 is benchmark. If I have more than that, I have good blood pressure or bad blood pressure.
Bad.
So they're using that as the what?
Kind of the measuring stick.
The measuring stick. So this is the measuring stick, but
Guys, how certain am I at this point that Jeff is following the graph, understands the line, understands the benchmark? How certain am I that he gets those things? A little or very? A little certain or very certain? Well, would he be able to have answered any of those questions if he didn't get how this stuff worked? See how I'm using open-ended questions? He's validating that he gets it, that he understands.
you can't just use that. You have to have a measuring stick for when things are what?
Bad.
Or when there's less risk and
less reward.
and more risk and
more reward.
So that's why we draw that line through there. And what does it cost to invest in these things?
Zero.
Zero. So I call it the no.
So how many times has Jeff told me that that line is zero? There's cost nothing to be on that line. How many times has he said it costs nothing to be in a CD? Costs nothing to be in the S&P 500. So he said this, what, 3, 4, 5 times now. So do we get that he knows that this line costs zero to be in?
No cost line.
Okay.
And I call it the no cost line because it costs what to be in these investments?
Zero.
Zero. Now, these dots are correlated to what?
My investments.
Your investments. So in this particular case, you're taking this much risk and you're getting more return. Is that good or bad?
That's good.
That's actually good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything above this line is what?
Good.
Anything below would be what?
Bad.
Okay, so when we get to this one, you're taking this much risk, and are you getting this much return?
No.
You're getting how much return?
Less.
How about this one?
A lot less.
How about this one?
A lot less.
How about this one is what?
Above.
And then this one is what?
Below.
And this one is what?
Below.
And this one?
Below.
And this one? And this one? And this one. So you have a lot above or a little above?
A little above.
And you have a lot that are what?
A lot below.
And remember I talked about there was 3 fees you're paying?
Mm-hmm.
There's another fee you're paying, and that's the management fee.
Okay.
So when we go back and look at your fees, We have $4,078 in unnecessary life insurance, and guess what the other difference is?
The management fees?
Yes. People don't work for free, do they?
No.
But if they work for us, they darn well better give us some better or worse than we get for free.
Well, you got to do better than free.
This is the what line?
The no cost line.
Which means it costs how much?
0.
So if you're paying for something, do you expect more than you get for free or less than you get for free?
I would expect more.
If the cable company said, I'm going to give you a worse situation, I'm going to give you half the channels, but I'm going to charge you $40 for it, what do I tell them? Take a fly and what?
Forget it.
Forget it. So you're being charged more or less than you can get for free?
I'm getting charged more.
A little more or a lot more?
A lot more.
Yeah. And you're getting what for it?
I'm getting a lot less.
So you want the best return or the worst return?
No, you want...
And guys, I'm going to write the things, right? More return, less return for the risk. Higher fees or lower fees. Remember, I do this every single time, don't I?
The best return.
And you want to pay more or you want to pay less?
Oh, we want to pay less.
You want the higher return, you want to pay less. You got what?
Less return for higher fees.
And why do you think that's happening?
Now, guys, here's the thing. If I stopped right here, guess what they would do? They'd say, can I have that? And we have a script to have them tell us in their own words why they can't have it. But why do they want it? If we gave it to them, what would they want to do? They would, if we stopped right here, they would want to take that to their guy, and then what would their guy do? They take it to the guy and say, I don't like these funds, and he would fix it. That's right. So remember, this graph is not to show them that their investments suck. This graph is why. Why do we show them this graph? Yes, their investments don't suck, Mark. Their guy sucks.
Well, obviously, he's just selling us whatever he gets paid the most on.
Right. And we're talking about real money here. Can I show what I mean by that?
Sure.
Can you add up for me this? So we cleared the calculator and add up 7,953.
Okay.
That's your management fees, which you're getting something for or not getting something for?
Not getting anything for.
And the insurance that you wanted or didn't want?
Didn't want.
Okay. And then the turnover costs, if I can get all the way down to that, that was how much again? Do you remember?
3,000.
Add that. And again, what are you getting for all that turnover?
Nothing.
Nothing. So what does that come to?
Looks like $10,720.
Okay. So can you do me a favor? How many quarters are there in a year?
Oh, 4.
Okay. So you can divide that by 4.
Okay. 2,930.
Yeah. Can I show you what that is?
Sure.
That number is? So how would you like it if every January 1st, April 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st. So January, April, July, October, the first of every month, a guy walks up to your door, and he knocks on your door. I guess they made this really difficult for me to open here. They would knock on your door, and they do this. They say, oh, Jeff, I'm glad you're home. Glad I caught you at home. And they're going to say, here's your stipend for the quarter. And they're going to say 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I doing this? Can you divide that number by 4? Oh, you did already.
Oh, yep. 2,900.
Okay. So where are we at right now?
1,000.
1,000. Or 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. How much more do I owe?
930.
100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800.
Guys, I don't care how much money they have. Do I have their attention at this point? I've taken 2,900. See, when I say they're paying 10,000 too much in a year, they think, wow, that's a lot. And then if they walked out of the office, what would happen to that? They remember it or they forget it? Some people would remember it, and if you do it right, they know my guy is screwing me, so I hate him. But let's say you screw up and you don't get the motive as well as you did. if they just walked out, if you told them that they're paying $10,000 too much in fees, it doesn't matter, because what do they think when you tell them, hey, you paid $10,000 too much in fees? They think what? It did or did not affect their life last year. It did affect what they bought for a car last year. It did affect their vacation. It did affect the house they live in. It did affect the how many times they go out for dinner, or it did not last year. The amount of fees that they were paying that they did not know they were paying. Did it affect them at all? It did not affect them at all. So if I just give them a number in their head, they're able to what? Just it's an imaginary number. It's an abstract number. They want 10,000. Oh yeah, and they walk out and they forget about it. Will they forget about me counting these $100 bills out in front of them? How much harder is that for them to forget? How much more visceral is it for them to see me count out these $100 bills that they could get every single quarter? It's visceral. This is a very, 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 very powerful tool.
900. I don't got 30, but I get 20. Can you spot me 10 for the next quarter?
I get to keep that, right?
That's yours. This is all yours here.
Almost always, almost every single time. Those of you that have done this, how often do they say, do I get to keep that? They always, I mean, they're looking at it. They reach for it. They want it. And again, they're joking, but they almost always say that.
Let me give it to you, because how often are you going to get this per year?
4 times.
4 times a year. So here you go. Okay. Just kidding. Because right now it's what?
Well,
it's going someplace, but it ain't going to who?
It's not going to me.
Did you work any harder for this?
No.
Did you pay any taxes on this?
No.
Did you take any more risk for this?
No.
In fact, we showed you could take less risk and what?
And get it.
So this is real money or not real money?
Oh, that's real money.
Every 3 months or once a year?
Every 3 months.
Where's it going now?
Well, right now it's going to the company in the broker's pocket.
And where do you want it going?
We want it in our pocket.
Don't you?
Yeah.
So are we talking about theory here or real money?
No, that's real money.
That's real money. So the last thing I want to cover very quickly.
So guys, if those of you that have used that, does it work to get people's attention? And if you're not using it, why are you not using it? And if you say, because I don't have enough money to keep $3,000 in my office, guess what you need to do? Learn the scripts so that $3,000 becomes like $30. Guys, do you think when I was making $1 million a year, I would care about having $3,000 laying loose around the office? Would that affect me at all if somebody stole $3,000 or got misplaced or whatever? No, $3,000 was nothing. That's the kind of world you want to live in, right? Where $3,000 is nothing. But it wasn't nothing, because having that $3,000 in cash in my office got people's attention. This is the climax to the meeting. Everything else we've done up to this point. How many clients at this point can still say, I want to keep my money with my guy? Because remember, all the scripts we've been over the last, probably 8-9 months, I've always asked you, will Jeff answer you the exact same way the clients answered? And you keep telling me, yes, they would. Yes, they would. Yes, it would. So they've now said that Jeff has said his guy is screwing them how many times? Hundreds of times. Sometimes in very, very big ways, sometimes in tiny, tiny little ways, but well over 100 times he said, my guy is screwing me. And at this point, with this graph, is there any reason they would want to say, what would be the reason they'd want to stay with their guy at this point? What could it possibly, remember, I got 2 people who their son was their advisor to leave their sons. Who would stay with their advisor after going through this? Now, what you should also understand, when I was making $50 grand a year, this was the first script I went to. This was the first script I went to. And I was showing them, look at how bad your investments were. And all they said, you're right, my investments are bad. They went back to their guy. All the guy did was he went to Morningstar. He put in 3 or 5 years, and then he changed all the funds into those ones that have performed great over 3 or 5 years. The thing is, though, do those change every year? Do the ones that are above our no cost line, are they the same every year, or do they change every single year? So just because the guy would change them, guess what? The next year, the ones that were above will be below. That's just the way. I mean, that's because people have to take money managers have to take more risk to beat out the market. So if they're above that line this year, there's a high likelihood they're going to be way below that the next year because they're taking more risk to do that. Does that make sense? So guys, all the other scripts up to this point were to kill this. This is the one that kills the guy. He cannot. How many advisors, if you do it this way, can come back from this? How many clients, if you do it this way, and again, I didn't tell them this, Jeff told me this. If the client explains to themselves all the things that we walked through in this script and all the previous scripts, what client can go back to their current advisor? What client is not going to want to move all their money? What client is going to be okay with going home and leaving things as they are? None. Guys, you have the oyster in your hand. You have the key to your kingdom in your hand. Learn these scripts, okay? Super duper. You guys have a wonderful rest of the week. We'll talk to you all next Monday. Thanks, everybody.